Hi guys, about half a year ago, I bought this Zhiyun Weebill S gimbal to be able to use for my mirrorless camera. Now where is it? It is over here. Now this is the Zhiyun Weebill S with the A72 and the 16mm to 35mm f4 Carl Zeiss wide angle lens. Now most of the time I'll be using my A6400 with my Sigma 16mm to be able to shoot for most of my videos, but as we are using it for the YouTube video today, I'll be using this for illustration purposes. So just do take note. Okay, let's put this aside. So if you can take up close. Now this whole setup itself weighs about 1.1 kg or 2.4 pounds, which is really quite strong already, but it's not nearly half of the weight that this gimbal is able to take. But just in case if you guys are curious, the weight of the A6400 with the Sigma is actually only 807 grams, which is quite light, and most of the time I'm just using that. Now there are a lot of other modules and things that are on this little gimbal, but we're going to be talking about it later on in this video. So before I go down into some of the details on what I like and don't like about this Weebill S, here's a little video of what this gimbal can do. So I hope you guys liked the video which I've done with the Gimbal S, and basically that was a video which I did for my friends for this dance competition which they had. Now before we start, I need to let you guys know that I'm not going down to the nitty-gritty details and all the small little technical specs of this little gimbal itself. I'll be just sharing with you guys my impression and what do I think of it and whether is it worth it in the year 2021. In case this video gets too long, I'll be leaving time codes in the description below so that you can fast forward to the relevant sections or if you want to revisit them in the future. Alright, so let's start on our first point, which is it's light and compact. Now the gimbal itself weighs less than 1 kg without any setup on it, and it measures about 30 cm by 19 cm on the height and the width. Now the gimbal itself without the camera setup isn't that big. If you put it up close next to my hand, you can see that it's just slightly bigger than my hand. The gimbal itself is really small and able to just put into any small portable bag that you have. Of course, if you need a camera, then you will need a bigger bag to put them all in. But comparing with other gimbals out there such as the Ronin, this is actually relatively small. Alright, let's put it over here and let's talk about our number 2, which is its good battery life. It has a 2600 mAh, which can last about 10 hours in my personal usage. It was advertised to be able to use 12 to 14 hours, but I guess I was quite overloading on this gimbal itself. But 10 hours is actually really good. Comparing my previous smaller gimbal, which is the Crane M2, this can last up to 2.5 times longer than that little gimbal itself. But well, the battery is larger and I'm still overall quite impressed of how long this gimbal can last. Number 3, motor strength. As you can see, it can definitely hold a mirrorless camera, a full frame mirrorless camera on this with no problem itself. It's able to hold up to 3 kg, which is roughly covering majority of the mirrorless cameras with their basic kit lens or even heavier lenses that are out there. If you guys are curious what other setups it can hold, I'll put down in the description below where Zhiyun has actually labeled what are the different setups which the Weebill S can hold. Basically, if you are using mirrorless or even the DSLR such as the 5D Mark IV, you won't have any issues at all. Number 4, Vortex Mode. Now, not all gimbals have this mode, but it comes in very interestingly as it gives you a very swirly and submersive feel. Now, how do we have it on? If you can turn it over here. So all you have to do is just double tap here, and the gimbal itself will go into this mode, which you can film while you're having it turning around this way. So what you want to do is just go back and forth. As you can see for this example, as we move in, it gives you this very submersive feel which is very unique and definitely complement all the usual modes that a gimbal has, such as the PF mode, the follow mode, or the POV mode. So it's very easy to set up. As you can see, that's one thing which I really like about the Weebill S. Now next is the 3-tap selfie. Now all you have to do is just put the gimbal over here and you can see that there's a trigger over here. Once you triple tap it, and this camera goes behind to give you this very nice selfie look if you were to using it for vlogging or other forms of self-filming. So now we have covered all the things which I like about this gimbal. Let's talk about some of the things which I do not like about this gimbal itself. Number one, it takes quite long to set up. Now it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for me to calibrate the weight of my gimbal and the lens itself. Now sometimes if you're to be moving around spontaneously shooting, you might not have that luxury to be able to calibrate it on the go. But thankfully most of my paid shoots, I have the luxury of time to be able to go to the venue 30 minutes earlier to be able to set this thing up. But just keep that in mind that this gimbal will need time to be able to put everything in place. Number two, there's no carrying case. Now what comes in this box itself is menus along with this little styrofoam casing over here. Comparing with my Crane M2, what you get inside here is basically just this placeholder to be able to put all your gimbal parts. But it isn't able to secure very tightly as there's no proper lock. It might easily just come off this way. Now it's quite a downer, I'm not gonna lie, and as you can see I even put a tape back here to be able to secure these two parts. You definitely want to get an additional carrying case to be able to complement this gimbal itself, so just keep that in mind. Alright, so that's my biggest gripe on it. Let's talk about some of the things which you need to take note if you plan to get this gimbal. Number one, always have weight before setting it up. You want to have your camera and the lens which you're going to shoot with on top of the gimbal itself before you start, for the cameras to be able to calibrate the weight. If not, the motors itself will shake very vigorously and in the long run, it will definitely damage the gimbal itself. Number two, it doesn't come with the focus pulling option and you need to get this module separately. Now let's turn it on to the Vortex mode. Now as you can see up close, there's this little module over here. So with this module, your knob over here will be very accessible to be able to either focus pull or to be able to zoom in, controlling the lens itself. So as I turn this little knob over here, you can see that the ring itself is also turning. There's also another option to be able to remote shoot it using some form of a transmitter, but that will definitely cost you a bit more. Alright, I had to switch out the batteries as the batteries was flat. Now let's talk about next point, which is getting an additional grip. Now what you see at the bottom here is what it comes with the gimbal itself. You can actually use this to be able to put on top of here to be able to move your cables in this manner. Now you definitely want to have two contact points to be able to use this in such a way as it definitely gives you much more stability and control over your gimbal. I personally got this from Ulanzi, which is just $10 to be able to give me this top grip. And if you can see up close, this is just basically a very little simple tripod that I can screw up here to give me that grip. There are of course more expensive options such as this $40 one. But if you have small Asian hands such as me, just get this $10 one will do. Now next is you want to get a carrying case. Now just as I mentioned that it only comes with this little thing itself, getting a carrying case will definitely make things very portable. Now personally, I just use my Amazon basics to be able to put all the things which I need inside this little thing while I carry the main gimbal body itself into my bag. But if you want something that can put everything together, I'll definitely highly recommend it. It should definitely be a more convenient option if you need to set things up and everything is in one place. Now I recently found one online that comes in at about only 35 USD and has rather good reviews. So you might definitely want to consider having one of these around. So overall, I really like this gimbal for its size, functionality and form. It is not too big, just nice for the cameras that I bring along, especially all the mirrorless ones. Nowadays, I'm sure you guys are moving on to the mirrorless setup, which is definitely much lighter than the DSLR setups. So this one would more than does it for majority of the different builds that you have. As I mentioned, there's a list down in the description below to be able to see what setups this thing is able to hold. I'm sure you guys know that there are other brands out there such as Snoopa or DJI Ronin, but personally I really like this size of the gimbal itself compared with others that are out there, and that's why I chose it in the very first place. If this video has helped you, do give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below and ring the bell notification over here so you'll be updated with my latest upload. Now if you're curious what other gears I cover, I actually come up with a playlist over here, so do check them out in your free time. If not, I'll see you guys in the next video.